Hey, what's up, Mandolin friends? David here again, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to play 3 common Irish tunes that will help you get ready for your first Irish session. These are all pretty much standards, and if you're new to this style, then this is a great place to start. We're going to go over some technique, the melody for all these tunes, as well as some embellishments that will help make these melodies sound more authentic on our instrument here. You'll have to forgive me, my voice is giving out here, but we're gonna power through. And by the way, this month leading up to St. Patrick's Day, we're gonna be checking out even more Irish mandolin content here on the channel, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But let's start off by hearing our first jig. It's a pretty nice tune, right? But before we dive into this melody, we have to talk about what's going on with our right hand here. And since we're in 6/8 time for these jigs, we're gonna have to adopt a new picking pattern to help emphasize the stronger beats on the first and fourth beats in the measure. So what we end up doing is this. Down, up, down, down, up. And that pattern is going to be the undercurrent for everything that we're playing here. Even if we add some longer notes in, we still want to make sure that we're subscribing to the pattern and moving our hand in the same way away from the string. So, for instance, if we played a quarter note followed by 4/8 notes, it would look like this. Down, 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 up, down. Hopefully you get the idea, but if you want a more in-depth explanation of this technique, I have an entire video about the jig picking pattern up here in the cards above. Check it out. But rest assured, if you're new to this, I think it's really essential to adopt this picking pattern in order to get the right feel and lilt to the music. So try learning the tune with the pattern at the start, and I'll be sure to have pick directions written throughout the tab and notation transcriptions that we're checking out here today. And by the way, if you want to grab your own copy of all these transcriptions that you're seeing throughout this video, you can grab them over on my Patreon page at the link in the cards above, as well as in the description below here. That's where I offer all my transcriptions and backing tracks. You can also get the Mandolin backing tracks for these tunes over on that page as well. Thanks so much for checking it out. So back to Out on the Ocean now. This tune is in the key of G and it has 2 sections. And what we're gonna do is just walk through the melody phrase by phrase, 2 measures at a time, starting with this first 2 measure phrase. The left hand's pretty simple here. Let's think about the pick directions with our right hand though. So we have a quarter note at the beginning with a downstroke, followed by another 1/8 with a downstroke. Then when we get to the 4th beat of the measure, we have yet another downstroke. From there, since we have consecutive 1/8 notes, it's a little bit easier to see the pattern. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. Let's try this phrase together now. Let's check out phrase 2 now. And here we encounter our first embellishment, which is the Irish triplet. And Irish triplets aren't really triplets, which is kind of confusing. They're more like 2 16th notes followed by another 1/8 note. And we have to play them pretty rapidly to get the right sound for this style. Here we're playing all 3 notes of this embellishment on the same pitch, and we're trying to make it sound as percussive as possible. And the other hard thing is figuring out what to do with our right hand since we're adding in an extra note within this already complex jig picking pattern. I usually play triplets starting with a downstroke, which makes sense here because we're starting the triplet on the 4th beat where we normally have a downstroke to begin with. So we play down, up, down for the triplet, but what's hard is that right afterwards, to get back on track with our pattern, we need to do another downstroke for the last 1/8 note of this measure as well. So altogether, it would be down, up, down. I know this is tricky, but we're gonna have lots of opportunities to practice these triplets throughout this video. And I even made another video all about Irish jig triplets that you can also find up here in the cards above for some exercises and other ideas on this topic. But for now, let's try this phrase together. The next phrase is exactly the same as the first one, so no sweat there, right? And then these last two measures of our A section before the repeat sound very similar to the second phrase. We just have a very slight different ending here. Check this out. We're walking down that scale to the open D to start the A section again, but for now, let's play this phrase together. That's the A section, folks. Let's see if we can string all those phrases together and play through this A section once. Onto this B section now. Let's check out the first two measures. And here we encounter another embellishment. Here in the second measure of this phrase, that tiny little note is what we call a grace note, and it's functioning as a pull-off, or what some people call a flick, from the third fret on your E string to the open E. And I almost think about this as a re-articulation with your left hand. You're not pulling away from the strings, you're kind of pulling down. You're trying to get off that third fret as fast as possible to let that E string ring out loud and clear. Let's put that in context with the phrase now. The next phrase goes like this. That's not too bad. Try that with me. Now here's the third phrase of the B. Watch out for this first measure here. We actually have all downstrokes to accommodate for some of these longer rhythms, before we get back to all eighth notes in the second measure and back to our normal pattern. Sounds like this. And these last two measures of the B are very similar to the last two measures of the A section, so you already got this. Walking up there to repeat the B section, but let's see if we can just get through this B section once a bit slower like this. All right, now we're gonna try this entire melody together. I'll play it with you with that transcription on screen, and we'll have a nice octave mandolin backing track to help keep us on track at a slower tempo here. So when you're ready, let's try this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One tune down, two to go. Next up is a fun tune in the key of D major called Connaughtman's Rambles, and it goes like this. Let's jump in right here with our first phrase. So here we have yet another fast pull off, now from the 4th fret on your A string down to your 2nd fret. It's a little bit harder with your middle finger, but we kind of want more of a percussive sound again, so it doesn't matter if that middle finger note rings out too long. Let's try that together. The next two measures start out very similarly with a different ending. The third phrase is almost identical to the first, but we start going somewhere else towards the end to set us up for the end of the section. Take a listen here. Together now. And then something a little bit different here for the last two measures of the A. So we have another Irish triplet here, but now we're actually moving notes in the triplet itself instead of staying on the same pitch like we had before. It might seem a little trickier at first, but it's actually okay to have some muting between the open E string and the 2nd fret, those first two notes of this triplet. We almost want it to sound, again, more percussive, and that muting helps add to the effect. Again, in context, it all sounds like this. When you're ready, let's try playing through that A section once together. Then we would play through the entire A section again, take that second ending and move on to the B section. And the first phrase of that B sounds like this. A little bit of 4th finger action here, followed by another fast pull off from the 3rd fret on your E string to the 2nd fret. And the next phrase starts out the same way. Another static triplet here on your E string on the same pitch for all 3 notes. Just remember to do another downstroke on the 3rd fret of your E string afterwards. Third phrase, you guessed it, is exactly the same as the first phrase of the B section. It goes like this. And then similar idea to Out on the Ocean, the last two measures of the B section are pretty much the same as the last two measures of the A section, so you already got this as well. You know the drill. Let's see if we can stitch all those phrases together and play through this B section once. And the fun part now of trying to play through this entire tune, both A's and both B's, with the transcription and the octa mandolin backing track. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On to the cliffs of Moher. Moher. I think it's Moher. Cliffs of Moher, a really fun jig and kind of an A minor modal sound, and it goes like this. Last tune, let's dive into this first 2-measure phrase. So we got some additional pinky action here on the 7th fret of the E string. Also, don't forget we're playing an F sharp here on the 2nd fret instead of an F natural, which normally happens in the key of A minor, but this F sharp kind of puts us in what we might call the A Dorian mode, which is a common mode for a lot of Irish tunes. Altogether, that phrase sounds like this. On to phrase number 2 now. Couple embellishments here. First, we have another pull off from the 3 to the 2 on the A string, right? Next, we have another triplet here and a couple of new things. One is that all the notes in this triplet are moving, right? We're going from 2, 3 to 5. And again, we kind of want a muted sound, so it's all right if the second note doesn't ring out quite as much. But another different thing about this triplet is that it's happening on the 5th beat of the measure, where we normally do an upstroke in our picking pattern. So in order to accommodate starting the triplet on a downstroke, we're going to have to play a downstroke right before the triplet on that open A, followed by another downstroke at the beginning of the triplet. A lot of downstrokes, right? Take your time with this phrase, but when you're ready, let's try it out. All right, phrase 3, same as phrase number 1. The last phrase goes like this. Starts out similar to phrase number 2, just ends a bit differently. Let's try this together. All right, we're gonna put those phrases together now and play through this A section once. Try it with me. Of course, you want to repeat that A section and then move on to the B section, and the first 2 measures of the B sounds like this. Here we have another triplet. Now that's happening on the 2nd beat, which is another part of the measure where we normally play an upstroke. So we have to do a similar thing like we did before and precede the triplet with another downstroke. So it'll be down, down, up, down. Give this phrase a shot with me. Phrase 2 of the B is a piece of cake. Check this out. Third phrase, exactly the same as the first phrase of the B. Let's try it again. And last phrase here, let's check out this turnaround together. It goes like this. Nothing too tricky there, right? You got this. Are you ready to try this B section with me? Let's do it. All right, let's put all that learning to good use here and see if we can play through this entire tune. The Cliffs of Moher, both A's, both B's with the transcription and backing track. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice work, folks. You learned 3 classic Irish jigs. You tackled the crazy right-hand jig picking pattern, the Irish triplet, and some other embellishments along the way. And there's just a few thousand more tunes to learn in this tradition. So pace yourself here. Spend some time on these 3 tunes and maybe try playing them multiple times through without stopping like you would at a normal Irish session. And when you get to that jam, you'll fit right in, I'm sure. So be sure to check out some of the other content that you see here on screen. There's some other Irish mandolin lessons coming at you later on this month, so be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for checking out the Patreon page. The transcriptions, the backing tracks are all there, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video real soon.